This meeting is being recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the December meeting of the Preservation Board. I'm going to call a roll to establish which members of the Preservation Board are here. Commissioner Robinson, are you here?
Yes.
Was there some sort of internal debate going on?
No, I was actually running back to my computer.
This is not an existential question. This is just a simple geographic one. Commissioner Hamilton, are you here? Commissioner Colleen, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Allen, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Gilbert, are you here?
Present.
Did I throw you off at all? Okay.
No.
Hi. Okay. Alderman Coder, are you here? I am present. Commissioners, I count 6 commissioners present. That constitutes a quorum. Commissioners, have any of you reviewed the minutes from the December 5th Preservation Board? And if you have, does anyone have a motion? And staff, that was a very quick turnaround on those minutes. Congratulations. Thank you. Barb?
And Barb, yeah.
Okay, I hear no motion regarding the minutes that the staff worked so hard to get ready for this meeting.
I'm sorry, this is
Chairman.
Richard.
Go ahead.
Yes, who's speaking?
This is David Richardson. I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Is
Second.
there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the December 5th, 2022 Preservation Board meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. The meeting, sorry, the meeting minutes are approved. Commissioners, take a look at the agenda. Is there any item from which you need to recuse yourselves before we get started?
Mr. Chair, Mike Killeen recuse on C, please.
Okay,
And this is Commissioner Allen. I also have to recuse myself on item C.
And staff, I don't know if you could note, I think both of us would like to present for that, and I don't know how to sign up.
We will be sure to put you down when that one comes up. We'll call
Thank
on
you.
you.
Sorry to ask you to do that.
No problem.
okay. Looking at the order, do we change it? Guess not. Let's go ahead and begin with this agenda, calling first item A.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair, may I interject, just so that everyone on the call or in the Zoom knows that the meeting is being recorded, and if you would like to speak on a particular agenda item, to please send chats to the square that says send requests to speak here, so that we have one point of contact for all requests to speak on an agenda item. Thanks.
Calling agenda item A, 6000 Washington Boulevard. Is that you, Jan?
That is I.
Okay,
This is a corner property in the Skinker de Bolivar, Catlin Tract, Parkview Place, Certified Local Historic District. There's a building on this about 10 years ago, but since then it's been vacant, and there's a proposal to construct a 3-family building of a relatively trapezoid shape at this corner. Next, please. And similar to a project that we had in Benton Park a couple of meetings ago, this is a very unusual corner. You can see that it is right at the edge of the denser part of the district. And it opposite along the pair to the right on your screen is a rail track. So there is a proposal for, as I said, a sort of trapezoidal building with a large parking, about a 6-car garage at the alley. And it'd be at the corner of the Pear and Washington. Next. And this is the site, actually staring directly at the site, sort of northwest. You can see there's a 3-story building adjacent to it. To the right, we're looking towards the railway, which is pretty much screened by the streets, but you can see there's very little context along the pier. Next. And this is the site directly in the center and the 3-story next to it. Next. And now we are looking down Washington Avenue, where there is considerable historic context. The majority of these buildings are 2, 3, a few 4 stories, mostly 2-story with a mansard roof or a half story above that. Next. This is another better view of the south side of Washington, and the project site is on the absolute left-hand side of the frame. Next. And this is the a site plan as well as the 1st-story plan, and there will be 3 units and 6-car garage at the back, and they will be connected, Meg, if you could indicate this, by a brick wall that will run along the pier. So it will be a fairly substantial uniform shape at the corner. Next. This is the front elevation, and it will be entirely brick. It will have projecting bay windows. All of these do not absolutely follow historic precedent, but they recall it, which is acceptable under the historic district standards for new construction. Next. This is the building seen in the streetscape along Washington. You can see that while the 3-story is actually kind of an anomaly for the neighborhood, this building will be slightly larger in scale than most of the buildings on the block. However, there is some variation in scale on the block. And if we go to the next, well, not the, hang on, let's go to the next one if you would, Meg, and then go back. It is typical of the neighborhood that larger scale apartment buildings are located at the corners of the block. So in this particular instance, that's totally appropriate. If we could go back 1 slide. This is the brick return proposed for the east, which will be partly visible from Washington. The agreement with the architect is that brick will extend the same distance between this building and the next building, so that it will appear at glance to be a fully brick building, and that the siding color, which will be the rest of the building, will be compatible with the brick color. That's yet to be determined. Next. And we have some renderings here. These, I will note, are early renderings so that the bay windows are not exactly accurately depicted, but this gives you an idea of the appearance of the building from various angles. So we could just go through these fairly quickly. There's the garage, which will have a brick wall facing the pier, and the brick wall that connects the 2 structures. Now, again, the staff would recommend that the siding be a slightly darker color that would blend in better with the brick. And I believe that this is not an accurate depiction of the current color selection. Next. We done? Next, please. We might be done. I guess we are. Okay.
So that's the last one.
Okay.
The staff is recommending preliminary approval be granted, subject to the staff's usual condition of reviewing the exterior materials, final drawings, and anything else in the building permit. Now, I have a copy of an email from Nancy Homan, chairman of the Skinker de Bolivar Historic District Committee, who indicates their support of the project. And I believe the architect is here to speak further on the property.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Okay, let's hear from the always entertaining Gina Hilberry. Hey, Gina, how are you?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
Thank you. Good looking project.
Thank you very much. I wanted to add, and this has happened actually since my last conversation with Jan. We've been working on the brick return on the west side, and it is now 16 feet long. So it's even longer than the return. We decided that it should go all the way back and pick up the first window on the west side so that it would be a a more complete return, and it made sense for the foundations. So it has gotten longer. The owner is committed to using a brick that is fairly traditional St. Louis, a nice deep red color. We'll go to Richard's brick. The limestone trim is not going to be limestone. It'll be precast concrete, but it'll be limestone color. The siding, yes, indeed, will be darker than the renderings. That was the intent all along, and we're more than happy to comply with that request. The owner is really, the whole concept behind this project is to create a bit more housing that will allow people to age in place in the neighborhood. People who are in the big houses with lots of flights of stairs and such like, and in the apartment buildings with lots of flights of stairs, really have no option in the neighborhood. There aren't a lot of single level, accessible, aging in place homes, and this building has a real elevator. All units are completely designed for aging in place. Not in your face accessible, but it intended to really work no matter what you face as you age, and allow you to stay in the neighborhood and be part of the community. That really was the original concept. The owner loves the neighborhood, has lived in it for 50 years, and is committed to doing right by it. As an architect, it's been a treat to work with him, because it's a real live commercial elevator. He's not cutting corners. He really wants it to work. He intends to live in one of the units and be around for a long time. I'm more than happy to take questions. I also don't want to chew up your time unnecessarily.
Commissioners, questions for Gina? Okay. Jan or Meg, has anybody signed up to speak?
Yes, we have Richard Bose.
Welcome, Mr. Bose. Meg?
I don't know what the problem is. The audio is coming out very scrambled on my end.
Anybody else signed up to speak?
No. I'm assuming Mr. Bose will be trying to, did he leave the room?
No, he's there.
He's still there, okay.
Hello?
Okay, you want to try again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I was saying I'm on the Skinker Bolivar Community Housing Corporation Board, and we tried to make a project work here, but couldn't, obviously, and we're excited, at least I am, that Mr. Sesh is carrying this through. So I wholeheartedly support this project. I just had a couple suggestions. If and this is part of it's because the other new building on this street at McPherson is really, really plain. So just a couple thoughts here. On the rendering, there's that little brick extension there at the corner. I suggest put that at the other two street facing corners. I think that'd be great. And on the garage, on the wall facing the pair, it'd be really nice if it had a couple windows, or it had, I guess that's a soldier course or something up near the roof line on the main building. Copying that on the garage would be great. I realize this might get a bit more expensive. If you can make that wall of the garage coplanar with the main building along the pair, that would be great too. Of course, it makes that garage a trapezoid, but hey, that might be a little more storage space for somebody. But otherwise, I mean, it's great to see. I just a couple suggestions there. I hope you might entertain. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Meg or Jen, anybody else signed up?
No.
Okay, commissioners, that concludes testimony in this matter. Commissioner Hamaker, have you got a motion?
I do. I motion that we grant the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to the project, subject to the stipulation that the siding be the dark color and that the final plans be reviewed and approved by the Cultural Resources Office.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
So-
Hearing none. Oops, I'm
I had
sorry.
a Mike Killeen here, question for staff. The suggestions just made by the neighbor there, are any of those in the code? Are there any of those required for them to do that? Those
No, the
changes?
the design complies with the code as it stands, with the exception of the brick return, which Gina's already said she's going to adhere to, so.
Okay, well, I think those were all fine suggestions, but obviously we can't enforce them if they're not in the ordinance, so. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Chairman, would it be possible for voters to appear for during voting, just out of an abundance of caution?
Okay. Commissioners, we have been asked when you cast your vote to turn your camera on, and then you can disappear back into whatever it is that you're doing, driving, flying, painting, whatever, for the rest of the meeting. The order that I'm going to call the roll is Robinson, Hamilton, Killeen, Richardson, Allen, Hamaker, Coder, and Callow. I'll be calling present board members only. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes,
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote. There are 5 yeses and 1 abstention. Congratulations, Gina, and thank you. Commissioners, calling agenda item B, which is a series of addresses in the 4500 block of Manchester Avenue.
Yes, just as a reminder to everyone who's in the wait or who is in the room, if you would like to speak on an agenda item, please send that via chat to the box that says send requests here. And we'll be sure to call on you when we get to the agenda item. Please put your name and the address of the agenda item on which you wish to speak, and we'll call on you. So good evening, board members. I'm Meg Lusto with the Cultural Resources Office. This is a preliminary review for the demolition of 6 residential structures on Manchester Avenue in Forest Park Southeast. You may remember this, it came to you in October, and the vote then was to defer it for 2 meetings or 2 months to allow the developer to meet with the neighborhood group and to get feedback. And an email with their feedback was sent to you earlier today, and I believe the Alderwoman is also here in the room, but I will get on with my presentation. I'll try to abbreviate a little bit since it's rather long and you've probably heard it once already, but this is a proposal to demolish 6 residential buildings in the Forest Park Southeast neighborhood. They are located in a preservation review district outside of the Forest Park Southeast National Register District. The addresses include 4534 and 4538 Manchester, which are 1-story brick shotgun houses, 4540 Manchester, a Romanesque revival 2.5-story, 4544 Manchester, which is another 2-story Romanesque revival, 4552 Manchester, a 1-story house in the Craftsman style, and 4556 Manchester, 2-story 2-family building in the Craftsman style. All the buildings are considered merit under the ordinance, as they would be contributing resources to a potential expansion of the Forest Park Southeast National Register District. 4540 has sustained a partial collapse of the rear facade, as has 4544 to a lesser degree, and 4556 has lost part of the upper portion. By way of background, in 2021, the applicant filed for preliminary review to demolish the buildings, but that application did not include plans for subsequent new construction. It was denied, and the applicant chose not to appeal that. The current proposal includes plans for the construction of a 4-story mixed-use apartment building with 71 residential units, 2 to 4 retail spaces, and 50 parking spaces. The project also involves 2 vacant lots at 4527 and 4531 Swan, which would be surface parking. So there is not a redevelopment plan in the area. As far as architectural quality, as I mentioned, all 6 buildings are considered merit. Regarding the condition of the buildings, no structural report on the building's condition has been submitted by the property owner. As I noted, portions of some of the buildings in the rear have failed. but masonry failures are due to lack of maintenance and do not appear to be severe enough to compromise the structural integrity of the buildings. Therefore, we consider them sound under the ordinance. Reuse potential, we do not have any information submitted to counter the viability of the buildings for reuse. Should the buildings be included in the Forest Park Southeast National Register District, preservation tax credits would be available to assist in the rehabilitation. We have not received any evidence of economic hardship. And regarding the integrity of the block face, there have been previous losses on the block. The existing buildings continue the street wall and are consistent in scale with the adjacent buildings. The loss of these 6 structures would disrupt the continuity of the block face. Proposed subsequent construction. The proposal is to construct a 4-story, 71-unit apartment building with interior and surface parking in an alley adjacent parcel. If you continue the pattern recently begun, I apologize all, I have not advanced the PowerPoint. There we go. So let me back up a little bit. This is the location on Manchester. These are the buildings. These are the lots on Swan. These are photographs of the building from the front, and then some images from the rear that were obviously taken in October and not in the past month. Here are the lots on Swan. Here is the opposite side of Manchester. Here's some other buildings on the block. And here's some context. This is the 4500 block looking that way. You can see the buildings right here. This is east on Manchester. These are some of the other buildings across Manchester. So not necessarily contributing buildings. This is on the same side of the block going towards Kings Highway. This is the Jiffy Lube, and that's context east. There have been other new construction projects in this immediate area that have not come before the Cultural Resources Office or the Preservation Board because they were on vacant lots and no demolition was involved. So this is what's proposed. Let's see, this would continue the pattern recently begun in the Grove of large multi-story buildings along Manchester and be similar in scale, siding, and exterior materials. However, the architects have worked with the Cultural Resources staff to refine the original submission and create a cohesive exterior design, unified color palette, pedestrian scaled first floor, and clearly defined building entry. The first story of the primary facade would be a series of glazed storefronts with a centered main entry marked by a distinctive surround and projecting canopy. Parking would enter from the rear of the alley. Let's see if I can do the side plan. Parking would enter here, and its location would not be perceptible in the design of the front elevation. While the building would be large in scale, that perception would be reduced by projecting corner bays flanking a 1-story section carrying pool and roof garden. That would be here. Elements have been derived from historic precedents in a contemporary translation. While the fenestration is current in form, it repeats the vertical orientation of the historic windows. Modern storefronts have historic tripartite divisions with glazed bulkheads, and the towers terminate in cornices that are overscaled and streamlined. As to the architectural compatibility, this block comprises a mix of small-scale residential, commercial, and warehouse buildings. It is less intact than many blocks in the Forest Park Southeast neighborhood and has not been included within the boundaries of the Forest Park Southeast National Register District. There's been substantial demolition. Buildings on the north side of the block have been demolished, and I think I alluded to that earlier. With the exception of 3 historic buildings at the northwest corner of Manchester and Taylor, and a remodeled 1-story at 4513. There have been substantial losses on the south side. Aside from the 6 proposed demolitions, there remain east of the project site only 4510 Manchester and 4512, both contributing resources. If the demolitions are approved, there would therefore be little existing block face for the proposed construction to address. However, the design would be compatible in setbacks, scale, articulation, architectural character, and exterior materials with the larger apartment buildings be constructed along the south side of Manchester. So preliminary findings and conclusions, we note that the buildings are located in the preservation review area. They're considered to be merit. They are sound within the definition of the ordinance. Demolition of the buildings would result in the loss of most of the historic block faces. The proposed subsequent development would be a 4-story apartment building with the interior parking that, while incompatible in scale, massing, and materials with the current buildings on the block, would continue the pattern of large-scale residential infill along Manchester. The architects have worked with the cultural resources staff to produce a cohesive and unified design that employs various elements to both reduce the perceived scale of the building and render it more compatible with the historic fabric of the neighborhood. And we therefore recommend that you grant preliminary approval. And I'll just go through some of the drawings. The architects who are, I believe, here may want to speak as well, but these are the east, west, and north elevations. This is the south elevation from the rear. This is the site plan, Manchester being here, entry to the interior parking here, and there would be access to the Swan surface lots from both the alley and from Swan. This is a typical floor plan. Here's a larger site plan showing the context. A view of the roof or of the amenity floor. The view from Swan, and a nighttime rendering.
Like anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, questions for Meg from commissioners?
I just want to clarify, Meg. So Commissioner Colleen here. So just to kind of boil it down, you're saying you're okay with tearing those down because the building coming later would be
What? I'm sorry.
would be acceptable to your staff?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Again.
We apologize for that. Okay. Under the preservation review ordinance, we are, if a building is going to meet or exceed the architectural quality, then we can recommend approval. This was we of course hate to see the loss of historic buildings, especially a row of them, given the conditions and the economy and the fact that the architects really did work very closely with us to make major revisions to the original design. We felt comfortable recommending approval.
So it's not that they're structurally unsound or not, they don't have merit.
They do have merit and they are sound under the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Further questions from commissioners?
Yes, I have a question about material sent out in the packet. I think it was the third tranche of documents. There's an undated letter from the Forest Park Southeast Development Review Committee. There's also an email from the Forest Park Southeast Neighborhood Association President Dan Dolling dated October 24th. Maybe I'm an idiot, but these are two separate entities. Is this committee related to the neighborhood association? Thanks for any clarity.
Sure. The alderwoman who has apparently just sent me an email that she would like me to read into the record if she's not able to stay, told me that the letter that you received, I think this morning, was sent by the Forest Park Southeast Development Review Committee to her, and she asked that be shared with you. So that was dated December 1st, and I think outlined some of the concerns that Development Review Committee had. I believe it was primarily with parking, but I will let them speak to that. And I just can't speak to the various groups and who they represent, but I understand your question.
Thanks, Mike.
But I actually am on, may I add to that? I'm only able to stay on for a few minutes. I have a conflicting meeting. Yeah, there's a Forest Park Southeast Neighborhood Association. And so that's a group of members and community members who have had input regarding the designs on this project and other developments. And then the Forest Park Southeast Development Review Committee looks at these projects more closely. It's made up of professionals like architects, engineers, and they look at the designs more closely than the neighborhood association, and they have input also on the project. So that is why you have different letters, but it is all community-based and community voices. So that's the difference between the two groups.
Alderwoman, since we have you and you're about to leave, is there anything you want to say about this project?
Yes, I would like to just say thank you to the Preservation Board in providing the Forest Park Southeast neighborhood an opportunity to have a voice on this development. I know that you had extended some time for the developer to meet with the Forest Park Southeast Development Review Committee. I just wanted to say that, the developer did meet with the Forest Park Southeast Neighborhood Association and the Review Committee. The review committee does have some concerns about some of the development, and it was presented in the December 1st, 2022 letter that the FPSC, that the Development Review Committee had emailed to myself and to the Cultural Resources Office. This letter has been subsequently forwarded on to you. Since the Development Review Committee sent the letter to the developer, who is Groveland Properties, they didn't respond to the letter, and that's concerning for me. And I don't feel that there was full community engagement, but I would say that the Development Review Committee does support, and I myself do like the project itself, the building. The two concerns that the Forest Park Southeast Development Review Committee had was something with the materials and also with the surface parking lot. But I just wanted to just bring up to you what had proceeded in the last 2 months in terms of community engagement, and that, again, the Development Review Committee does like the building and the design. They did have a couple concerns. They were not fully addressed. And that's about it. I know that there were going to be another speaker for this particular development. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Meg, let's have the applicant now.
Okay. I'm not sure who exactly is here to speak.
Hi, it's Austin Barzani with Grove Properties. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Austin, do you know how to change your display name?
I don't. I'm sorry. I'm on video and then I'm on the phone as well, so I'm not sure. I can see all you guys, but I don't know if you can see me.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, first off, I want to thank the commissioners for hosting this meeting during the holidays, and wish everybody happy holidays as well. A couple of things that I'll reiterate since we met 2 months ago about this project. We're excited to present it to you again. I've developed many buildings, historic buildings in the neighborhood over the last 15 years. And if you recall, I mentioned at the last meeting that unfortunately, because these buildings, the existing buildings, are not in the historic district, I cannot make it economically feasible to rehab or restore these buildings. And my consultants have also advised me that the likelihood of getting these listed on the register is slim to none as well. So we're presenting this project to you again. It meets the form-based code. And I did want to, one of the commissioners asked about if they're structurally sound. And I will say that all of these buildings, except for one of them, are all structurally condemned by the building department. Per the commissioner's request at the last meeting, you had requested that I meet with the neighborhood group and the CID and the alderperson, and we have done that. I believe you have a support letter from the CID, the Community Improvement District, that they overwhelmingly support the project. I know you have the support letter from the alderperson and the neighborhood supporting the project with 2 conditions. And those 2 conditions are that the facade meet the form-based code. And since we have met with them, we have changed the materials on the facade, so it does meet the form-based code. Their other condition is the parking on Swan. And before we actually met with you, even at the last 2 months ago, and before we met with the neighborhood, we had already adjusted the parking on Swan. We pulled the parking up so it meets the setbacks of the existing facades of the buildings on Swan. I appreciate their concerns about the parking. However, I'm already at a 70% parking ratio for this building, which I believe is lower than anything that's been built in St. Louis to date. And I can't make this building work without the parking. I wouldn't be able to get tenants, and first of all, I wouldn't even be able to get a bank to finance the deal. My architects and I did look at changing the parking or somehow figuring something else out with the parking, but it's just not feasible. A building of this size does not warrant structured parking. The economics simply just wouldn't work. So the parking, I need the parking to build this building. That being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions now from the commissioners, or I could turn it over to our architects who can give you another brief rundown of the building.
Okay, let's see what the questions are, and we'll see whether you or the architects need to answer them. Commissioners, questions?
So I'm curious if you've spoken to the neighbors back there on Swan and if they're for or against the introduction of your parking lot back there.
There was a gentleman at the development committee meeting that did live on Swan, and you have their letter. And I have a couple of tenants on Swan that have expressed their support as well. I believe you have a letter that one of the residents sent in as well.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, further questions?
Yes, just I missed the October meeting where this was considered, so I apologize if this is redundant, but for the applicant, I know you owned some of these buildings for a number of years, and I'm just curious, what were your intentions when you originally purchased these buildings?
Sure. Well, my initial intention was to save them. However, the economics, as I mentioned, because they're not in the historic district, did not work out. I also applied for NPAs to make them work, but was not granted those. I applied for NPA credits multiple years and was not successful in getting those. That being said, even if I were to have gotten those, this still would have been such a tough project because, as you know, with NPA credits, it's only for sale housing. And you know, if these buildings were on more of a residential block, then it wouldn't be so much of a risk. But selling, you know, single family homes on this commercial block is too large of a risk to take on, even if I had been allocated NPA tax credits. So so for this project, I just acquired the last two lots from LRA in August of this year to make this project work.
Commissioner? Is that it?
Oh, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. Any other commissioners have questions? Okay, Meg, who signed up to speak?
First, we have Abdul Abdullah.
Go ahead.
All right, can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, just really wanted to come to talk about our support from this, not only from a Grove SIG commercial district standpoint, but also for this project in general. Couple things that this project does do, particularly with some of the concerns that we had from a Park Central standpoint with the form-based code was some of the materials that those materials did meet the form-based code and what you could do with it, with the revisions that did need it. From the Grove SID standpoint in the commercial district, this fills in such a big hole within the space, particularly in the east end of the commercial district. This is also in line with the neighborhood plan that was established as well to have this type of density, particularly with even some of the things, areas around parking, having a car optional experience here, but still providing some parking but the commercial district and the Grove City Board is in full support of this particular project. And one of the big reasons certainly is that it fills in the holes for this area and it keeps a thriving commercial district. And Austin did meet with the board and the business community on this as well as some residents and some additional property owners that were at the meeting. And the board did send in a letter of support for the project.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Meg,
you, Mr. Chair.
Next, we have Zen Harbison.
Hi, thank you. This is Zen Harbison. I live in the Forest Park Southeast neighborhood. I am part of all three of these committees and I have not reviewed these, but I see them now and I have to agree with everybody and I like the two conditions. I'm sorry for the people on Swan that will have to look at cars all day to have this building improved. I totally understand the 70% ratio and get that project. I personally think it's fine. I may be biased because the buildings there, I don't like the idea that nobody has mentioned historic Route 66 and all that they have just given up. And that's only within the last generation or two, let alone the 100-year-old structures to say goodbye. I do know older constituents in the neighborhood that would like to put a comment that are not in this meeting. So I'll just voice for them. Along with some of the other buildings that have been built under the SID, they do not reflect the surrounding buildings, of course. Obviously, this is a picture of a modern architectural building. People do wish that the architect would match the surrounding 100-year-old building architecture, the Italianate architecture, and to do so in a modern landscape would be to have the first floor or two replicated in a building. And in the upper floors, we have to make comments and say, oh, okay, well, that's new, it's modern. You can find this kind of architecture in places like France, which of course has a lot to do with St. Louis. I just want to put those comments in because people do think this way. I have a mixed feelings, my personal self, but I want it to be voiced for this meeting so people realize. Again, I generally like this project and what they have done. Thank you.
Meg, who's next?
Next is Curtis Eisenbath.
Happy New Year, everybody. I am representing the Development Review Committee that we're working with Tina on, and we are supportive of the project, but we do have some reservations with the parking, and I think they addressed the materials that are used on the facade, and I think those are going to have to go through the full zoning process, and until that goes through, I think we should condition the demolition permit on being accompanied by a building permit to make sure we get those issues resolved. You know, the form-based code was originally based on buildings, and a standalone parking lot is kind of a gray area within that, and even looking through the form-based code, it looks like not only just a fence is needed, but a street wall may be needed. And we also made the suggestion that, you know, could they remove the curb cut from Swan? And only have the access from the alley was some of our, potential improvements that we thought would make a better project to help reduce the need, the impact on Swan. So I think it was mainly just, our feedback was to make the project a little bit better. And we, in general, the committee is supportive of the project, but we would like that it be conditioned on, the approval be conditioned on a building permit being submitted before demo permit is issued. Thanks.
Thank you. Meg, who's next?
Next is Dan Doling, but before we proceed, there's something that I should have mentioned in my report. There's a question in the preservation review ordinance about, does it comply with the form-based code? That process has not been finalized. We've reviewed our portion of that process and it appears to comply, but I don't want to speak for the zoning department, which has to issue the final approval. Next is Dan Doling.
Hey, Dan Doling here from the Forest Park Southeast Neighborhood Association. Just wanted to clarify on a couple of comments made earlier. The Forest Park Southeast Neighborhood Association did invite the developer to present at our association meeting but was unable to attend due to a scheduling conflict. So we did present the materials he provided and shared those at the meeting. The Forest Park Southeast Neighborhood Association and the Development Review Committee are separate entities. The association does not review developments like the form-based code, under the form-based code or anything, but it does provide the forum for residents to hear from developers on developments, share concerns, and ask questions, in which all feedback can be given to the Development Review Committee to incorporate in their review. At times, we may write letters to the city and officials, but only to elevate voices of our community. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Meg, who's next?
We don't have anyone else signed up to speak.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioners. This concludes the testimony we're going to hear in this matter. Commissioner Khalid, have you got a motion?
I actually had a question for Mr. Doling there before a motion. May
Sure, go
I
ahead.
ask him a question? So didn't I see a letter from you asking for this thing to be delayed so you could look at parking longer?
It was not to look at parking specifically. It was to provide the residents in our neighborhood the opportunity to see the development, see the plans, have Austin or anyone else attend our meeting, do a quick Q&A session so residents could get to understand the project and not have, questions 6 months in when it's under development and not be surprised by it.
So isn't that what we just went through? We delayed 2 months on this thing. So
Yeah.
he hasn't been over to see you guys, or?
We only had a meeting in November. We didn't have a meeting in December, and there was a scheduling conflict. So he was unable to attend, but he did provide some meeting materials, and we presented those. There were some questions and concerns, and we provided all of those to the Development Review Committee, in which they had their own meeting and addressed and asked those questions to Austin and his team.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to pass on.
It's Austin Barzani. If I may clarify, I was not able to attend the neighborhood meeting, but all of the concerns and questions from the neighborhood meeting were brought to the Development Committee meeting that I attended with the architects, with my architects and the alderperson.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Khalid, you have the floor.
I'm going to pass on this motion. Thank you, though.
Okay, stand by. Commissioner Allen, you got a motion?
I'll pass as well.
Stand by. Commissioner Richardson, have you got a motion?
Yes, I move that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval for the demolition of the 6 buildings and the construction of a 4-story mixed-use building with the condition that CRO gets to approve the final design details, exterior materials and colors, and that there be no demolition until the applicant also obtains a building permit for the new construction.
Is there a second?
Second.
I second.
Barb, is the motion clear? You're muted.
There we go. I will read it back to you what I have to grant preliminary approval with the conditions that Cultural Resources, as they've stated in their recommendation, and no demolition permit to issue until building permit issues. I assume, and you might want to clarify, is that for all the properties, or that's the only area that might be unclear to me.
To be a building permit for the proposed 4-story new construction.
Okay.
Commissioners, is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. I'll call a roll. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Khalid, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Present.
Commissioner Hamaker, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote. There are 4 yeses, 1 present, 1 abstention. The motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. Moving to agenda item C, which I note Commissioners Killeen and Allen will be abstaining from discussion.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Bob Bettis with staff. First up, I have a prelim review to remove a portion of a historic stone brick wall at the property at 1435 Malincrot. This is the property in question. We'll do some quick walk around. This is actually the view from Blair looking back towards the property. And the other side, I'm sorry, on the right is the kind of the corner of Malincrot and Blair. Here is the site in question. As I said, corner of Blair and Malincrot. The alley is in this area right here. And on the photograph on the right shows you the location of the proposed wall to be removed. And here's some street level context looking west on Blair and looking east on Blair as well. And this is some a view looking back towards the rear of the property, or side of the property, really, across a current playground there, and then also looking north along Malincrot. In brief, I don't want to step on the toes of the applicants. They can tell you more about their project, but the building itself will be used for a youth training center, and again, they can expand upon that. Parking for the project needs to be in the rear of the property, and the access to the property is pretty limited. You really can't get to from Malincrot without blowing through more ornate brick and stone wall. Said there was a playground here, but there's going to be some parking in this area which would be impacted, so it's not really a good spot for it, from what I've been told. So look at the site plan here. Area in red comes off the alley, gives them a good drive lane and ample parking for their project. Again, this is kind of a street level view looking back towards the alley, down the alley towards the wall in question. This is a detail of the area to be removed. You see the wall is not in the best shape. It's also kind of a bit of a stub left. A lot of the wall, as you can see, was removed, and there's some chain link infill. So it's not really part of the more ornate wall that runs along the streets. Here's a close-up shot showing the wall again. It's in pretty rough shape. This is the interior of the wall, and you see the existing chain link fence. The new gate, which you see here, will extend on from that chain link fence. So the reason we're here is that the Hyde Park ordinance says that walls, freestanding, should be kept in repair, and obviously we feel removal is contrary to that part of the code. Again, we acknowledge all of the site constraints of the parking and its existing condition. However, we do feel that removal of that does run afoul of the code. So staff is recommending that the board uphold the denial of the removal of the wall. I would like to note that we did get a letter of support, and I believe it was forwarded on to you from the alderman of the ward. He is in support of the removal. Any questions for me?
Questions, commissioners? Okay, let's hear from the applicant, please.
Okay, thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about our project. My name is Zakita Armstrong-Asukwo. I'm the chair and CEO of Gateway Global. We are a tech-based workforce development organization, and we focus on training youth and adults and now and next generation technologies. We are very excited to be in the Hyde Park neighborhood building well, it's phase one of 3 phases of a 3-part campus called the GWAC, and it stands for Geospatial and IT Workforce and Apprenticeship Center. We have a flagship program called the Geospatial Intelligence Technician that's very connected to the burgeoning geospatial industry happening across the region. Gateway Global has national accreditation to train and credential young people in our region in geospatial intelligence so that they're qualified for jobs, not just with NGA, obviously, but across industry and sectors that converge with that particular skill. And so in this building, we are transforming it to act as a training facility with classrooms, some computer spaces, and then offices for ourselves as administrators, and then industry partners and some of our higher education partners as well. So this building being renovated, we bought it from Most Holy Trinity. Obviously it was a former school, and now transforming it into essentially a school that will focus on developing or cultivating the talent of our region. And so for us, we'd really like consideration to have the wall removed so that we can have the parking that we need for the building and the spaces that we need for people who work and visit the building, because we expect that we'll have quite a few young people and adults from across the region who will be in there training again to supply a lot of the workforce needed across the region. So I'll pause there and I'll pass it over to our architect, Mike Colleen.
Hello, everyone. I'm really here for questions should they come up, because I think she did a great job, and so did Bob, of explaining this project. I guess I would just note that over the years, I've noted that on the board, we've approved the demolition of entire buildings to save other significant, maybe larger buildings. And I think this is a much smaller price to pay. If we could just take this small portion of wall down, it would allow this beautiful old building from the 1870s to be brought back to life in its new use. And then Michael Allen's here with us too. So he is the historic consultant. And Mike, I'll give the floor to you.
All right, thank you, Mike. I'll just briefly add that, our intention all along has been to restore and retain the perimeter wall while solving this issue of parking. So as part of our tax credit application and rehabilitation approach, we are restoring the rest of the wall except for the section that we'd like to remove. So it'll look really wonderful. We're retaining the historic iron gate on Mallinckrodt, so that interface with the school retains its historic character. On the 16th of December, the State Historic Preservation Office forwarded our application to the National Park Service without any conditions. They approved on their end the removal of this wall. It's now at the National Park Service. We expect a decision soon. We're doing a very minimal amount of change to the building and to the site, and this was just really the one thorny issue that requires us to come to the Preservation Board for approval. So I'm happy to take questions.
I would add on that part, and Mr. Allen's correct. This did come in as a building permit for more extensive exterior work to the grounds, including the wall rehab and some ramps for access, and all that to comply. This was the sole element that did not comply.
The chairman muted?
No, he's there.
Is anybody else signed up to speak?
We have Zen Harbison wishes to speak.
Okay, Mr. Harbison.
Thank you. Hyde Park is my future home. I'm very familiar with this building, and I just wanted to make comment that considering this piece of wall in violation is entirely in the alley, I think we can go without it. So I really like the idea of the renovations and everything. I just wanted to comment and second Alderman Bosley's opinion. It looks like it's a good thing. Let's do it.
Anybody else signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Okay. Barb Burkett. If you notice my lips moving and no sound coming out of your speaker, would you please touch your nose and your ear so that I know to unmute
Yes,
myself?
sir. You got.
Otherwise, I'll just be talking at Bob and Bob can't hear me. Okay, commissioners, that concludes our testimony on this agenda item. Let's see now. Commissioner Hammaker, have you got a motion?
I do. I motion that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval to the partial demolition of the historic wall.
Will you in discussion indicate the reason for a variance or not? We need a second to continue the discussion, but is there a second first?
Second.
Okay. So Catherine, why?
Because the applicant complies with all other portions of the code in their building permit application. And this piece feels like the least important. I don't think that's an official reason.
Because of the, did you say because of the unique use to which they're going to put the building?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call a roll, trying to avoid calling on people who have recused themselves. Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammaker, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Have I overlooked a commissioner who could otherwise vote? Okay, the chair abstains on this vote. There are 3 yeses and 1 abstention. Two commissioners have recused themselves. The motion carries. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Okay, let's call agenda item D, a very familiar agenda item, and discuss that.
It's back. It's back. It's back. 3rd time's the charm. Okay, so I should probably note that up front. This is back as a prelim. The applicant's first 2 attempts were appeals of denial, and they kind of exhausted that avenue. So this is now back as a prelim, as we're trying to be accommodating to the applicant. So we're back now with this. I don't want to belabor what we've gone through before in terms of the background. Just in brief, they started to remove part of the roof in the back of the building. We met them on site. Then they applied for a permit and have come to you for a couple of asphalt-based shingles that were, although sometimes in similar color, oftentimes not, they were both denied. Both denials were upheld. So the applicant has now returned with a new proposal. I'm just going to kind of scroll through just to kind of get you some context, ring some bells. Again, staff has always acknowledged that the current roof was in pretty rough shape. Okay, and this was the window. This is the roofing material that was denied last time. Was a green Sherwood forest colored Grand Manor shingle. Okay. And then also, again, for folks who were not here last time, I believe Mr. Allen was not here. We did try and have them look at doing a consolidation, salvaging good tile, putting on the front slope, and it was determined by the roofer that there were not enough viable tiles to complete a front slope in totality. Okay, so the newest proposal is a Brava Old World Slate synthetic material. So it looks like slate. Obviously, the current is a flat, smooth tile. So this is a proposal showing the proposed versus the existing. This is kind of a side-by-side comparison showing the reveals for both. As you can see on the next slide, sorry, Yeah, if you please mute your camera in the background, your microphone, if that's the other background making that noise, we appreciate it. Thank you. So this is the new one. Obviously, the tile on the roof had kind of varied colors, not a consistent green. The new synthetic slate is a uniform color, and it is slightly bigger. It's about a third bigger in terms of the reveal you would see. It also has a textured surface to it versus a flat surface. So there are some differences. And at the end of the day, that is why staff really can't recommend approval for this at the staff level. You were given this packet earlier. I was not provided any additional information in regards to hardship from the church. I do know we have a rep here from the roofing company to speak on the product. In the past, there were issues in terms of the price of this product, and they can maybe explain to you their pricing structure looking forward. So given all of that, staff, again, we appreciate the effort. This is obviously a better quality shingle than what was proposed prior, but staff still cannot recommend approval because of the differences that you see on your screen. So I entertain any questions.
Commissioners, questions? Bob,
Yes.
is there going to be a solution that complies with the ordinance?
The solution would be to work directly with Ludovici, and that would cost upwards of over $1 million to replicate what is there. That is the solution that would meet the code, in all honesty, or try to find a way to repair what's up there. And I mean, that's pretty much what we could do over the counter. So it's.
Are you familiar with any other projects in the neighborhood in which the roof is being replaced?
In this scale, no. I mean, there are others that are being replaced, but this situation is pretty unique in terms of the uniqueness of the tile and just the scale of the building itself.
So just to clarify, is the
Sure.
claim economic hardship
That
because
was
of
the
that
initial
$1 million?
Sorry. Yeah, early on, there were several options, including this one actually put forth, and it showed, and this was essentially you guys in terms of the cost breakdown for each of the products. The Brava, it was this one, I believe, was a Decra tile, and they were substantially more than the asphalt shingle. So it was the contention all along of the church that they could not afford to go with a higher quality material that would meet the code or come close to the code, as the case is.
Gotcha, but there has been no evidence provided by them or additional evidence regarding the economic hardship piece, correct?
That's correct. There was the initial letter was sent to you all last month about their stance on how their finances work in terms of paying for buildings and how each one is funded. But beyond that, no, ma'am.
Great, thank you.
Further questions of Bob? Okay.
Bob, has the neighborhood weighed in on this?
Mr. Dwyer is here to speak, so he will have his say in a few minutes. We just also, so you guys understand, we've also been talking with Jim Dwyer and the group, and it kind of explained our point that, again, this is a better quality material. We just can't support it. So I think that they'll be here to offer some more of their take on the situation as well.
Thank you.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
Christian Harbart is here.
Hey, I'm Christian Harbart with Shelby Roofing. I appreciate your time. Want to give everybody a little insight. At the beginning of this was in the heart of COVID. I know it's not totally excused. We've been in business since 1983. We would never intentionally not get a permit. It was an oversight on our part. They asked for a permit, more of a building permit, and it got overlooked. So I want everybody to know that we had no inkling that we were going to be able to put a roof on that big building and get away with it on purpose. So secondly, when this all started and it was leaking everywhere, while COVID was starting to loosen up a little bit, shingle manufacturers did not manufacture shingles at all. So what we picked was based on what was available. And I mean it because they used their any material they had they used on a product that was sold a lot more. So they literally quit making any high-end products at all. Ludovici was, over a year, and we were finding that those those deadlines, they weren't even abiding by them. It was just at leisure. They just said, no, we're not making it. No, we're not making it. And it just went on and on and on. So the initial shingle that we proposed, obviously we wanted to be green. It was the only thing available that would come close to what was on there. But now that, you know, a year and a half has passed, we've come up with a couple other options. Ludovici, the actual tile, is at least 7 months out, at least. Even if we could come up with something they could afford, the church could afford. But we did come across this Brava. It's a really good product. I think it's the closest thing available besides actual tile, and it's something they could afford. So I think it's a fair. I think it's a fair for both parties. If the roof's leaking now, we can't. Every month that goes by, we're trying to band-aid it, but it's in really bad condition. Definitely not salvageable. So we pretty much exhausted what materials we could choose. It's either this or $1 million tile roof a year from now. That's pretty much all I have. Glad to answer questions.
Questions for the applicant?
How much is this one?
This one is about double the shingle roof. This is a little over $500,000.
Thank you.
Okay, who signed up to speak?
We have Vincent Cantanzaro. He's with the building itself. He works at the building.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vincent Catanzaro. I'm the maintenance supervisor at the facility at 325 North Newstead. And I want to address the committee because about the point of the financial hardship, and that the last meeting there was really brought to a point that there was no structure and no rules for any financial hardship. And it was one member looked up and said how much the Archdiocese made and that we had the money for this $1 million roof. So here's my concern. We are not for profit and our mission is to serve the poor and help them. We offer other services and facilities like low-income senior housing, skilled nursing, assisted living, also recovery centers for any abuse, drug, alcohol, or domestic. And if we had the money, why is the Archdiocese starting a campaign called All Things New to either close or merge schools, parishes? For example, St. Mary's and Rosati Kane. They are now forced to continue a private Catholic schools with no Archdiocese support. It might look like the Archdiocese has money, but it gets stretched over to the facilities that go under the Catholic Charities Federation. For example, Cardinal Ritter Senior Services has 14 buildings, and that's just one agency. We haven't even scratched the surface of all the parishes, schools, and other non-for-profit entities under the Archdiocese. My hope is the committee bases the decision on the product and not just give in to the thought that we have an influx of money to spend. Thank you for your time and hope you all have a wonderful holiday.
Who's next?
We have Jim Dwyer.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
There you are.
Here I am. I'll be brief. This is the third go-round, as we all know. I frequently have to point out to people when they contact me as the chair of the Planning and Development Committee that we are not an appeals board. Our primary role is to help people find ways to abide by the provisions of the Central West End Historic District standards. And the product that is proposed today does not meet the standards. I think we all are aware of that. I believe that we should all be aware, based on the testimony of the roofing contractor, that a product that would meet the standards is available. However, it apparently is available at twice the cost of the product that is currently proposed. So reluctantly, I think, and this is more personal than a committee position, but I believe that we have pushed on this project as hard as we can push, all of us collectively, applicant as well, that the product that is proposed today represents an improvement over what was proposed earlier, and therefore it deserves consideration. One sidebar that I think is critical and that obviously cannot be addressed today, but I believe should be in very short order, and that is the development of a standard or a protocol for administering the issue of financial hardship. It has come up a couple of times in recent months, and it seems to me that there really should be an objective standard that would apply across the board, that would require documentation of some sort to substantiate a claim of hardship. Meanwhile, this roof is leaking, and the delta of $500,000 between what's proposed now and what the qualifying material would cost, I think, deserves consideration, and therefore the committee would not oppose approval of this product. Thank you.
Bob, is there anybody else signed up to speak?
Nobody else, but I do want to point out something, and thanks to the awesome, quick thinking staff here. The building, I think it was actually discussed before, was probably why you asked, Richard. Property at 10 Washington Terrace is replacing their entire tile roof with Ludovici. It's probably a third the size of the building in question, and that cost was $700,000 for that building. So I think just to give you a sense of the scale of what something like that would cost, I think the $1 million is probably. So that's all. Nobody else to speak.
Okay, commissioners, that concludes our testimony in this preliminary review. Let's see. Commissioner Richardson, you want to make a farewell motion?
I move that the Preservation Board overturn the director's denial or grant this preliminary approval for this substitute.
You want to start that motion again?
I move that the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval for the synthetic slate tiles.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, commissioners, I'm going to call a roll. There's a motion on the floor that's before us that's been made and seconded. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Hamaker, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
The chair abstains on this vote. There are 4 yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstention. The motion carries, and we grant preliminary review. Commissioners, we've been at this for a bit. I'm going to call a 5 or 6 minute break and bid farewell to Commissioner Richardson, who is on vacation on a ski slope and talking to us, I believe, from his après ski chalet.
Close. Thank you. See you guys. Bye.
We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, this meeting will come to order, please. Calling agenda item E 2601 Market Street.
Good evening, board members. This is Meg Lusto again from the Cultural Resources Office. This is an appeal of a director's denial for demolition of 2601 Market Street. This is probably a very familiar case to you because it came up at the last Preservation Board meeting where the Preservation Board granted preliminary approval for the demolition, but tied that approval to the issuance of a building permit. The applicants, as I've noted in the staff report, stated this condition would have a deleterious impact upon the project's timetable and costs, and therefore, in order to submit information pertaining to those matters for your consideration, applied for the demolition permit, which we denied because it did not comport with the board vote of last month, and they are now back on the agenda. This is a property located in a preservation review district where Cultural Resources and the Preservation Board have jurisdiction over demolition applications. And the building is a merit structure per the definition in 64689. So I can go through the staff report again, but I don't know if that's necessary. Richard, you're muted.
I do not believe that it is. Let's hear from the appellant.
Hi, this is David Robert with Midas. Excuse me. Thanks for reconsidering our request. At the last meeting, the full construction permit condition was added at the last minute, and honestly, I was caught off guard. After the meeting, we were able to quantify the impact of the condition. We purchased the property and started working on this prior to the pandemic. Since then, we've redesigned this thing 3 times because of the pandemic, the construction costs increasing 20% and interest rates ballooning. This is a giant project. It's a $120 million project with a long timeline for completion. We own the land. We have a lender in place for the first phase of this project. And first phase is demo of the existing building, but it's also reconstruction of an entire exterior wall on one of the Wells Fargo buildings that we, excuse me, that we are detaching from. We'll spend $4 million on this phase, and it'll take 8 to 10 months. We've had every roadblock thrown in front of us on this project, from the pandemic to construction costs to now increased interest rates. If we don't start now, we can't hold our pricing, and projections, our construction costs will go up again in 2023 by 4%. We'll have $1 million penalty from the franchisor, from the brand, because we will not break ground on time and we will not open on time. An additional consideration is the Brickline Greenway that is scheduled to go alongside us on Market Street. With the MLS Stadium completion, the Greenway is wanting to continue the improvements along Market. We need to clear our buildings to coordinate their upgrades. I mean, honestly, too, a first-class hotel on the campus is very important to Wells Fargo. They are isolated from key amenities, and adding the upscale hotel and food and beverage outlets dramatically improves their ability to recruit, train, and entertain key clients. This delay, if we have to wait to pull a full building permit in order to start, the delay will cost us over $5 million. And our project just can't absorb that any more costs and still move forward. It honestly will kill our project, and we will not be able to move on. We're a local company. Us and Green Street are here in St. Louis. This is home to us. We're not an out-of-town developer trying to get zoning as a condition of purchasing the property. We own this. This is more than just a demo permit. This is really phase 1 of a big project. And our request is you allow us to move forward with the project and remove the full building permit condition. Thank you, and I'll answer any questions.
First question, was your testimony the truth?
I'm sorry?
Was your testimony the truth?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Meg, was your testimony the truth?
It was.
Okay. Questions for the appellant?
No.
So, Mr. what is the rest of the city's protection against some other unexpected event occurring that happens after you've torn this Merit building down? I mean, your project has been delayed and affected by several things that have happened so far.
Yeah, I mean, we have a good track record with the city. This will be, we've developed over $80 million worth of stuff in the city. We finish what we start. This is a great project in a great location, and I'm going to get it done. I just can't absorb any more costs. We're out now with our contractor. We'll be able to submit our building permit in 23. It'll probably be available in 5 or 6 months, and we'll be able to submit that. But I have plenty of work that I can do ahead of that. And it's again, more than just demo. I've got to re-skin an entire building for Wells Fargo. We'll start our site work also. So, I mean, I understand your concern. I get it. But it will dramatically impact our project and really kill it.
Commissioners, questions for the appellant?
Does the demo permit that you've applied for include that reskinning job you just mentioned?
Steve, do you know that?
Yes, we have applied, we have submitted documentation for the reskinning as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions for the appellant?
Yeah.
Well, I just have a question. In terms of the ordinance that we make decisions under, economic hardship is pretty specifically defined. I have a report in front of me from the Cultural Resources Office staff saying that there's the economic hardship criteria are not applicable here, yet you're asserting that they are. I have some documents from your side, but I guess if you could tell me specific to our ordinance why you think we should grant this under economic hardship. I'm all ears.
Yeah, we were just asked to provide some support for why we thought there was going to be an impact. And so, I mean, we've provided a report that showed that in 2023, construction costs are expected to go up again by 4%. Our construction project, just the construction budget's $86 million. 4%, that's 3.2 million. The brand, when we signed a franchise agreement, we stipulate a date that we will be open. If we don't get going with this demo, we will miss that date, and that's $1 million penalty for being late. And so we provided backup for that. I mean, obviously there's additional interest carry for another 12 months, which is probably $900 to $1 million. So we were just providing support for why it will devastate our project.
And if this board tonight does not grant your request, what happens next for you as the owner of the property?
The 2 buildings set vacant. They've been vacant for years. They'll continue to be vacant. And there will not be able to move forward with the project.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions from commissioners?
Question for staff. Have we had a chance to?
I'm sorry, cut out, Mike. Have we had a chance to?
Have we heard of any other options to hold an applicant like this accountable? I mean, are there any other tools on the table for us to address here?
We are not aware of any.
We could ask for a bond. They've offered to pay $1 million to the hotel operator if they don't open on time. We could ask for $1 million if they tear the building down and don't build their hotel.
Barb, is that right? Do we have the authority to do something like that?
I mean, this is unprecedented. I'm in open session. I'm not inclined to offer a legal opinion of first impression on that, but Chairman, do you have another example of this? Because I'm searching.
I wasn't suggesting that we require it. I was wondering if they were offering it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you said they have offered it. Okay.
It's never come up, Chairman, so that this first to my knowledge, we've never had that discussion, so it's the first time I'm here to think about this. So what is what I'm potentially offering, that we would put up $1 million bond in order to pull our demo permit. Is that correct?
I pulled that number out of nowhere, and it was a proposal. It was an idea offered to a commissioner who wondered what could be done that would both protect the city and allow your project to proceed.
Yeah.
I mean, this would not be an issue if you had construction drawings already.
No, understood. And as I said, it's a giant project with a lot of phases, and
it looks like, though, the only phase before us, and according to your testimony, the only one you have financing for is the demolition.
That's true. That's the one, because I don't have final plans yet in order to go out and get complete. With the way construction costs have gone, I'd like to have my final numbers before I finalize with my lenders. We have lenders, I just have not gone out and finalized with them. I think we would be willing. I mean, to me, 250,000 seems like a lot of money to set aside for a project that we own the land, so we've spent $5 million on the land. We're going to spend another $4 million on this demo and reconstruction. So we're now in $10 million into this project. We're pretty pot committed. I would think an extra 250 would be sufficient to hold our feet to the fire.
Any further questions for the appellant, commissioners?
So let's clarify what he just offered there.
Okay.
So is that $250,000 towards a bond? I don't know how that works. It's not my world.
I'm not sure that the testimony was that he had authority to do that he was seeking to gain authority to do that, just to be clear.
Yeah, I think what I'm testifying to is that we would, in order to pull our permit, we would put up a $250,000 bond for the city. That if in fact we do not complete the hotel construction, then we would forego that bond, right? And that money would be turned over to you guys or to the city or whoever.
Thank you for that testimony. Meg, who else is signed up to speak?
We have no one else signed up to speak.
Okay. Sir, is there anything else you'd like to add to your appeal?
No, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. Okay, Commissioner Killeen, have you got a motion?
Oh, well, here's a strange one. See if anybody seconds it. Ready?
Ready.
I move that the Preservation Board overturn their own denial of this particular item from last month and grant the applicant the ability to demolish this building with the stipulation that if he does not build his hotel, he has to put the building back.
Second.
Commissioners, there is a motion on the floor that has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Barb, can I do that?
You know, the code says that you could approve or deny, you could do this with conditions or modifications. This is certainly an unprecedented modification, and I have not been involved in the enforcement of this type of modification, but
Would you call it a $250,000 question?
Quite a bit more, I think.
yeah, I think if we were working something out, we would need, you know, a lot of details on what exactly that means.
I will note the plans for these buildings do exist, the original plans from Merit. So Mr. Colleen's motion is achievable on that regard.
Is there any further discussion?
So obviously that idea is, it's a bit crazy. I suppose we could add to it, Mr. Allen, if you would agree, the stipulation of a $250,000. Is that what, Mr. Robert, is that what you suggested there? Is that something that we have to do when we go for building permits anywhere? Or is that something you're suggesting in addition to?
No, I don't think that's something we would have to my knowledge, I don't think I have to do that to pull the permit. Steve, is, you know?
To put up a bond of that nature?
Yeah, there wasn't a bond requirement.
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think there is. So I'll just be honest, Mr. Clean, I rebuilding the buildings is probably unrealistic, you know, just being honest. And we'll get the hotels done, but the site would be improved without the buildings. So I'm willing to put up the $250,000 bond to ensure that we build our buildings.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
Commissioner Allen, do you agree?
Yeah, I'd feel more comfortable if council had some time to look into our authority to require this bond before we would take any vote on this matter.
Well, then, what we could do, commissioners, is simply vote on the appeal.
That's fine with me.
And then if in fact we denied the appeal, the appellant had a different idea, they could propose it.
Yes, that's good.
So, but he loses another month in his construction schedule. How many millions of dollars did we spend when we make that motion?
Fair point. Probably less than the pandemic and escalating building costs and supply chain problems have caused already. And we protect a Merit building.
So I don't mean to be flip about this, Mr. Rivera. I don't know if you have a response to all this. Losing another month to go give council a chance to think about a bond.
Yeah, 30 days does not kill me. In another 60, 90, I mean, when do you meet? Do you meet in January?
Right.
The next meeting date is January 23rd.
I mean, we need to get going in February in order to not be devastated here. So reluctantly, we do have 30 days. I was hoping to solve this today. Because you can't pull a permit overnight either. Again, we're willing to put up a bond. I know that may not be something you can. Well, I'm not sure what the procedures are. So
Is the appellant asking for continuance to gain authority to really make this offer and to send it to the cultural resources staff and to allow us time to consider this proposal? Is that what's happening?
I think that would be the safer thing to do rather than denying it and restarting another clock, right?
I have the authority to do this. That's, if that's your question. So I'm fine making this offer. I just would like to get approval, so we can move forward.
Well, Mr. Chairman, what if we were to make a motion to go forward with this plan and with the stipulation that, pending legal review by staff? So once we find out, Barb finds out it's okay, then.
Barb, I don't think Barb has that problem if the appellant is proposing it.
Is that true, Barb?
Yeah, if the appellant is asking for a brief continuance to allow this concept to be fleshed out, I'm certainly not going to object to that, is if he's asking for that this be suspended to do that.
What I'm asking, I'm making an offer of $250,000 bond if we can move the approval forward. And maybe you add to a condition that it's a 2-week delay or a week delay for you to review the legality of this.
I personally would like to see something in writing before I vote. I don't know about Mr. Killeen or other commissioners, but that's where I am.
I like this project. I like the idea that the city will have some protections, and I don't mind coming to a meeting in a week.
I don't either.
You mean setting a special meeting?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Seems like a good path.
Yeah, I think that's a good compromise. And I just want to be clear, I like this project too, but as you can tell, you've run into a gang full of building huggers here. So we like the old building too. So
I don't dislike the old building. I think I'm going to improve the corner.
That would, a special meeting in a week would certainly allow us to get the details of, of this, behind this testimony.
All right.
Commissioners, do I hear a motion to defer consideration of agenda item E for a week?
So moved.
And I might add.
Second.
Might add to that to give staff time to review this idea and to give the appellant time to provide a written proposal.
Looking at both their faces and Barb's anxious face, I am pretty certain they get that.
Yes.
We do get that. Can I make a suggestion? What if we can't get it done in a week? Could we say 2 weeks and then just try to get it done as quickly as possible and try to shoot for next week? But
I'll revise my motion that I kind of made just by saying so moved to say up to 2 weeks.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
No, not opposed.
Okay. Okay, Barb, is that satisfactory as a motion and a vote?
Yes, I have the motion carrying, apparently unanimously, unless I've misrecorded that.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see you in a week or two.
Thank you for your time, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, what's up with agenda items F and G?
Board members, the appellant there, that's for 1224 and 1230 Craft Street, has requested that the items be deferred. You may recall that at the last Preservation Board meeting, we were instructed to meet with the alderman in the neighborhood. That site visit took place earlier this week. The alderman would like to do further outreach with some of the neighbors in the neighborhood, and at his request, the applicant or the appellant has asked for deferral. So with
For how long?
For a month.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move that the Preservation Board defer consideration of items F and G for 1 month.
Is there a second? Chair seconds
Second.
for discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda items F and G are deferred for a month. Calling it agenda item H.
Okay, so this item was tabled last month. Do I need to swear back in, Richard?
No. You're under
Okay.
oath till midnight.
Okay, excellent. So quickly, at the last meeting, let me get you some pictures really quick. The windows on the second floor were replaced without permits. It's a citation issued, the applicant applied, came to you before you to plead hardship. At the last meeting, you had requested that the applicant maybe look for some more bids and then also to provide additional hardship information. You were all sent additional information by email, so you have additional stuff to mull over. I did send the applicant a few options for contractors, and she did reach out to at least one. I believe others. You have a bid for that. Now that bid was for the installation alone of some products from a different company called Rivertown. So you have additional information to mull over. Veronica is here again to speak and answer questions for you. Again, staff is still recommending denial based on the non-compliance of the windows. So here to answer your questions for you and questions for Veronica.
Commissioners, questions?
So this Rivertown information that represents what has been installed?
No, so the Rivertown, the replacement, they gave her a quote for just the units themselves. And it was several $1,000s. And then she had to find a separate contractor to install them. You received a bid. Yeah, the bid that was sent to you. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
The question on the photo here is, are these the new windows, are they painted or were they factory coated in that color?
I believe that they were painted after the fact because there's some wood windows down below that were painted as well, and the doors were repainted.
Okay, thank you.
And there was a question before, Mr. Colleen, those are the doors that were there prior, they were just repainted.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's hear from the appellant.
Hello,
Hello, we can hear you.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I submitted a bid. I had someone to come out and look at the windows again, and I submitted it, and it was $6,100. You asked me to send in documentation as to where it was a hardship. I no longer work. I have retired. I sent in paperwork stating the day that I retired, and I also sent in documentation that my income is, I'm on disability now. So that I'm asking that due to my hardship, that you allow me to keep my windows.
Commissioners, questions for the appellant? Okay, is anybody here to testify?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, do I hear a motion? Commissioner Robinson?
I move that the Preservation Board reverse the director's denial due to hardship and allow the appellant to retain the windows.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Commissioners, I'm going to call a roll. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemaker, from your family's Christmas, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this. There are 4 yeses, 1 abstention, and the motion carries. The appeal is upheld.
Okay.
Thank you, commissioners. Following agenda item I.
Okay, this is the last one, and I'll be quick. This is a property in Benton Park. In brief, the proposal is to install a horizontal wooden fence in the rear yard. Benton Parks standards require that anything beyond a vertical fence require a model example. Model examples for this kind of fence, you're not going to be able to find it. I actually spent 2 hours looking on websites today at historic photographs and really couldn't find anything. So the horizontal fence does not comply. Staff had to deny it. That's why we're here. So real quickly, here's some context for you. Some street level context. This is a drawing of the proposed fence. The proposed fence will be going next to a garage that was constructed recently in the rear yard. The fence itself will not really be seen from Missouri. It's screened by a fence that runs along the adjacent property's yard, so you really can't see what's behind that fence. And here's kind of a site plan showing you the location in yellow, and here's the white fence screening it. We did receive a letter. Benton Park is in support of the applicant, and they did note in their letter of support that they are in the process of updating their code, and they will be allowing these kinds of fences in the future. However, the fence does not meet the code, so staff recommends that the board uphold the denial.
Commissioners, questions for Bob? Okay, is the appellant present?
Yeah, I believe Jacqueline Wilson is here to speak. She's the owner.
What would you like us to do, Ms. Wilson?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry.
And is your testimony going to be the truth?
Yes, sir.
What do you want us to do?
I would like for you to accept the proposal based on the fact that the court ordinances will be changing, and our neighbor just built a horizontal fence just a few months ago and it was approved. And we have them even on the other side of us. And so we're hoping that we can get this approved. It won't be seen from either Missouri or from the alley. And so we're hoping that we can get this approval and move forward with it.
Let's see who's got questions for you. Commissioners, questions from the appellant? For the appellant?
Why do you want to have a horizontal fence?
Good question.
Because it's, Stuart, are you on the line? It's 18 foot between our garage. Can you see that? And the neighbor's fence, and it separates our patio from our neighbor who approves it, but it will be just a continuation of the garage frame. So the garage siding where it runs horizontal, it'll just continue that way. And it goes with the siding on the inside too.
Okay, so it's aesthetics.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not cheap either, but it will be aesthetically pleasing as well, you know, and it matches the garage that's there already, which and it's total. It's a private facade as well.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, Mr. Wilson, was your testimony the truth?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything else you guys would like to add for the appeal?
I don't think so.
Bob, is there anybody else here to speak?
No, but I do need to enter. I'm sorry, I neglected to swear myself in for this item. Is that okay, or am I okay?
You're still under oath.
Okay. And then I do need to enter into the record though for this 64689, the ordinance 69423, and the Benton Park ordinance 67175, my presentation and the report, just so that's on record. But nobody else is here to speak.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Killeen, have you got a motion?
I sure do. I move that the Preservation Board overturn the director's denial and allow this this horizontal fence to be constructed as proposed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Chair will call a roll. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote. There are 4 yeses, 1 abstention. The appeal is granted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Happy holidays.
Commissioners, does anybody have anything else for the good of the order? Hearing nothing, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Okay, good enough.
Second.
Commissioners, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, commissioners and staff.